Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. Finally got round to it myself. Season review time. Going to look back at the 2019-20 campaign. We're going to do a slightly different approach to the traditional. But first of all, big shout out to Boz and Stocky, who put together a really good month-by-month, game-by-game analysis of last season on the Gills in the Blood Injury Time podcast. It's a cracking listen, so go and check that out. Yeah, very sensible for them too. A lot of football chat, not a lot of bantering. I think the only person who took a bit of a digging out was me and my headband, which I found a little ironic considering the fact that Stocky's looked like a homeless Amish boy for the last 3 months. Finally shaved that horrendous beard. Love you, mate. Anyway, I digress. Slightly different approach from myself. Compared to the lads, and I'm going to do it in the form of top threes. So I've got a few different sections. We'll go through them individually and pick my top three from each, and then at the end I'll just do like a little summary of the season as a whole. So first section is coming up on your screen now. Right, considering it's one of the main things the manager has to do every summer, I'm going to start with top three signings and in reverse order in third place, and I'm including Lone Stars in this. I'm going to go for attacking midfielder Ollie Lee, who I thought had a really good campaign with us. Come in a bit late. I think he made his debut at home to Bolton at the back end of August, so didn't really have a pre-season with us. There was stuff going on up at his parent club, Heart of Midlothian in Scotland. Probably an ideal game, in fairness to him. He came in and played against Bolton's kids, hit the ground running, scored 2 really good goals in a 5-0 win, which was our first victory of the season, and generally was pretty consistent all the way through. Went from strength to strength. I think he got half a dozen goals, 10 assists throughout the campaign, and yeah, really good to see Ollie develop into a good footballer. We had him a few years ago when he was a youngster. A pretty low-key loan spell, but this one I think was a lot more fruitful for him as an individual and in terms of us as a club as well. So yeah, in terms of top three signings, I've got him third. Second, I'm going to go for a player who had big hands and big feet to fill. I think at the time when the player that he ended up replacing had left, we was a bit concerned as Gills fans, thinking it was going to be tough. But the fact that this man made us forget all about Thomas Holy says all you need to know about his performances throughout the season. I genuinely cannot remember him making any howlers. He's obviously had games where he's been better than in others, but for me, Jack Bonham was absolutely immaculate throughout the season. Plenty of big saves, plenty of clean sheets, just to carry on from plenty of clean sheets that he got the season before when he was on loan at Bristol Rovers, and proved to be a better and better signing the more and more the campaign went on. I wasn't sure at the beginning in terms of not thinking he was loud enough or vocal enough in his own penalty box, but happy to sit here and say I got that slightly wrong. He's been really good. And yeah, we now exchange messages on Twitter, such as the friendship, because he lives local to me, and he had to go shopping for olive trees. That's a little side story that you didn't need to know. Bit of useless information. Anyway, number one for me, people might say, well, he'd already been there for 2 years, but he was only on loan. We signed him properly this summer, last summer. Got told he'd never play fullback. He wasn't even in the team at the start of the season, in fairness to him. He had to bide his time, because if you remember going back to the first few games, the back four was Lee Hodson, Alfie Jones, Max Amar and Barry Fuller at left back. So Connor Ogilvie had to wait for his chance, and when he got it, he took it with both hands, and he just got better and better and better the longer the season went on. Late winners, threatened both boxes, and even turned into a very accomplished left back, which I thought I'd never say. For all the world, I said at the beginning of the season, he's got to play centre half, he cannot play full back, he's not quick enough, his positional sense isn't good enough. We have to give credit to Paul Rayner, I think, who Steve Evans said was the man behind it. Got him on the training pitch, got him to learn the fullback role, and what a brilliant signing in 2 positions. Absolutely superb. Still with us for the new campaign, whenever that may be. So that is my top 3 signings Third place, Ollie Lee. Second place, Jack Bonham. And first place, Connor Ogilvie. We now move on to top 3 performances of the season, and this doesn't necessarily have to be wins. And again, in reverse order, I'm going to go for, in third place, the final game that I watched, which is 4 months ago now. March the 7th, Stadium Alight, Sunderland 2, Gillingham 2. Thought we were absolutely brilliant. To go up there for the second time this season, but this time in front of a bigger crowd than we'd done in the FA Cup tie back in November. We were really, really good. Probably deserved to win the game. I know they took the lead twice, but we showed incredible resilience to stay in the football match. And Mika Mandron probably put in his best performance that day. Scored both the goals. First was a real poacher's finish. And then, just when we thought we was going to undo all our hard work with a Tom O'Connor error, and Cole Lafferty putting them 2-1 up. 94th minute, I think. Long ball into the box. John Akindi flick on. Ollie Lee, composure to set it. Mika Mandron, one touch out of his feet. We were right behind it, right in the top of that stand at the far end of the ground, and he arrowed it in the bottom corner past John McLaughlin. Just reward for a really, really good away performance. And I think that was one of the things about this season, was that we were competing with the bigger sides, with the bigger budgets, the bigger fan bases, the better players on paper at least. But yeah, really, really good draw and a decent final memory. Little did we know at the time, obviously. Right, moving on to number 2. Was a home win in the league back in November against Lincoln City. We won 1-0. Again, it was Mika Mandron, I believe, who scored the winner. Another good poacher's finish after the ball dropped to him in the penalty area from a corner. Just thought we were really good that day. There was plenty of chat throughout the season about us not having enough of the ball or a lot of the ball. I had a couple of discussions with people on Twitter and Facebook saying you don't have to have the ball all the time to win football matches. It's what you do when you've got it. But I think this was one day where we generally did dominate a team. The home form was better, wasn't it? We know that. We look forward to going to games more. And yeah, we created plenty of chances that day, I think. There was plenty off target, and that was probably one of our issues. But it was great to see us against a big physical side. Good manager in Michael Appleton. Yeah, just for us to be on the front foot all the time. And that was a big difference from what we've seen in the home performances of the last few previous seasons. And it probably should have been a couple more than just the one. I think they had one real chance right at the end where they flashed a header wide or just over. But aside from that, we were comfortable defensively, if I recall correctly. We created plenty of decent enough chances and probably should have won by more than the single strike. But the main thing was 3 points. Number 1 on my list is Sunderland again, because we played them a lot, unfortunately. Sorry, Roker report. But that was the home game, Saturday, December the 7th, I think it was, which is weird. So that was the 7th of the month as well. 1-0 in the league. We were absolutely brilliant. I think we created 2 really good chances in the first 10 minutes. We had one that was, I think, a Brandon Hanlon cut back and Ollie Lee couldn't quite bundle it home. Mika Mandron hit the bar on the run from about 7 or 8 yards. I think caught it too well. If he'd scuffed it, it probably rolls in the bottom corner. Instead, it hit the bar and came out. I think it bounced outside of the penalty area. Such was the connection. And we had to leave it really, really late. And I remember at the time saying to Boz and Stocky and others in the ground and on Twitter afterwards, it'd have been an absolute travesty if we'd not got the 3 points. We had to wait till right near the end. Corner dropped to Connor Ogilvie in the box via Max Amar. And Connor had an excellent touch and swiveled it into the top corner. Brilliant, brilliant win against a side full of players that should be playing Championship, you'd imagine. And we went toe-to-toe with them again and we saw them off and it was absolutely superb. So that's my top 3 performances. Sunderland away, Lincoln at home and Sunderland at home as well. Right, moving on to category number 3. This is my top 3 personal memories from the campaign. Be interesting to hear yours as well. But yeah, this doesn't have to be football related in terms of the game and the goal or anything like that. It can just be stuff that happened to you in the ground or on the way to an away day or something like that. So number 3 for me was a game that I didn't actually go to. It was Boxing Day, but the fallout from it on social media from Ipswich Town fans was absolutely hilarious. This is the Ipswich Town, bless them, that had won the Champions League when they came to Priestfield in September, if you remember. All the Olaying at the end, very early Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool when they drew 2-2 with West Brom. But yeah, Ipswich Town, after our 0-0 draw at Portman Road on Boxing Day, all their fans on Twitter absolutely up in arms, incredulous, steaming angry that we was allowing our left back to walk across the pitch to take a long throw-in throughout the game. I mean, it's just, it creased me up at the time, and it still makes me chuckle looking back now. The fact that the mighty Ipswich, UEFA Cup winning Ipswich, led by the mighty Bobby Robson, were having to reduce themselves to moaning about the fact that we were sending our left back from his area of the pitch to the far corner to take long throw-ins. Why wouldn't you? Rory Delap used to do it for Stoke from all angles. If you've got that weapon, why not use it? Ipswich, I'm sorry, you started really well. I said at the time of your 1-0 victory at the start of the season that you're going to be right up there. You weren't for a reason. You weren't good enough. Nothing to do with us and our long throws or anyone's short corners or free kicks. You weren't good enough. But that just stuck with me. It made me laugh. The fact that Ipswich were in such a poor run of form that they were desperately trying to avert blame, I think. And it was the fact that we sent Conor Ogilvie to take a few long throw-ins. Bless them. Number 2. And I'm really upset that I've deleted the video of this, and I've checked the Matchday Live to see if there was any footage on there, which there isn't, and I'm sorry. Stocky, badly hungover prior to the game against MK Dons at the Priestfield back at the end of December. He had been out on his football team's drinks night out the day before. I had a message from Boz on the Saturday. Stocky's not coming, doesn't feel well, he's been throwing up. Stocky might be coming, he feels a bit better. Nah, scrub that, Stocky's throwing up again. Eventually decided to come. You should have seen him in the ground trying to carry out the simple task of drinking a bottle of water. He got it on his gloves, it was all down his coat, it was in his scarf, it was in his beard. Boz had to babysit him for about 24 hours, I believe. And yeah, there's a couple of moments throughout that Matchday Live where you come to Stocky and you can still see the eyes give it away. He's not quite there, I don't think, bless him. Covered up under a woolly hat, collar right up, looking all sorry for himself. But we've all been there, I think. Right, and number 1, another funny memory, probably the funniest moment that come out of an incredibly bad away day. That was poor old Tom O'Connor trying to ride, I'm trying to think, was it Chris Cadden? The Oxford wingback at the Cassam Stadium back in September. We were so poor that day that Tom O'Connor, bless him, couldn't even bring their player down correctly, couldn't even foul him in the right way, and ended up riding him bareback for a good 15 yards down the touchline. I think the cross even got put into our box. Such was the poor levels of our performance that afternoon. And I think Stocky and Boz both alluded to it, and it was the choice of plenty in terms of worst performance of the season. It was that and Rotherham that kept coming up. But yeah, something to make you smile in amongst all the rubbish that day when we didn't have a shot until the 95th minute. I think we were 3-0 down inside 32 minutes, and it was just bloody awful, to be fair. But yeah, Tom O'Connor trying to ride the winger bareback down the touchline did make me smile. Right. All silly memories for me. Right, we move on to section 4. Which is them things that win your football matches, and that is goals. Wasn't a vintage season in terms of the fact that there were 30-yarders or loads and loads of set pieces, good free kicks. I mean, we had Luke O'Neill a few times the season before last. We had Tom Eves, Howitzer at Fratton Park, didn't we? Season before that, we had his 30-yard volley away to Plymouth. Mark Burns' wonderful volley at home to Bristol Rovers. There wasn't any of that type of goal. But the 3 I've picked out, I think, were the top 3 goals for different reasons in terms of impact on the game, etc. Number 3, I've already spoken about it. Conor Ogilvie at home to Sunderland. Just edging out Conor Ogilvie at home to Rochdale, in fairness. As I've already mentioned, as it was in one of our best performance choices, would have been an absolute travesty if we'd not won that football match. And for a left-back / centre-half to have the composure in a crowded 6-yard area in injury time against one of the biggest side in the division, I imagine. to have a touch on his knee and then the wherewithal to spin as the ball drops and volley it into the top corner from about 8 yards was staggering. It was a forwards finish. If Tom Eaves had done that the season before, or if Brandon Hanlon or Mika Mandrel had done that, we'd be waxing lyrical about it. So for the fact that it was a defender made it even better. The fact that it won us 3 points really late and the Rainham roof nearly come off that afternoon just made it so much sweeter. And I think that was the third time we played them. We'd drawn in the cup 1-1 at the Stadium of Light. We'd beaten them in the replay 1-0, courtesy of Brandon Hanlon late on in extra time at the Priestfield. Connor then saw them off in the league. And as you already know, I've already mentioned the 2-2 draw at the Stadium of Light, which proved to be our final game of the season. But yeah, Connor Ogilvie third for me. Second, something of a forgotten player. But you have to go all the way back to late summer, early season. Mick Allen Jolly at home to Wickham. A wonderful, wonderful hit with his left foot, his weaker foot. Again, sealed the game for us. We were 1-0 up, a little bit under the cosh. Wickham were coming back at us. And Brandon Hanlon escaped down the left like he likes to do and got to the byline. Managed to pick out a pass. And Mick Allen Jolly set it with one touch and then swivelled left-footed and arrowed an absolute bomb into the top corner. Again in front of the Rainham men to seal the points. And he's a young lad that will get better, I'm sure. And he didn't have many highlights in a Gills shirt. I think he'll forever be remembered for the game against Southend, where he unfortunately missed 2 penalties. But yeah, Mick Allen Jolly, in terms of a highlight in a Gillingham shirt for me, would be that afternoon. He scored both the goals. The second was an absolute bang. And it beat us. It won the game for us, sorry. But my choice for goal of the season is from a player who's recently left us. Bloomfield Road, back in February, Regan Charles Cook was introduced. We were struggling, not playing well in a system that was a bit alien to us. This is when we'd gone all 4-4-2 in an attempt to try and win games and bridge the gap to the top 6. And it was working, just. I think we won this game, and Southend on back-to-back Tuesdays away from home, having only won 1 away game all season prior to that. But yeah, long ball from Jack Bonham. I'm sure you remember it comes out the sky from 60 yards. John Akinde is occupying the centre half. They both challenge for the ball, but both miss it. It drops and has a bounce, I think. And Regan Charles Cook takes one touch on his knee. And as it drops to the floor, arrows a volley into the bottom corner at the near post. Superb technique. And we knew Regan was capable of that. We just didn't see it enough. He just didn't get enough starts for one reason or another. But yeah, my choice for goal of the season has to be that one. And we wish Regan all the well at Ross County in the Scottish Premier League for next season. So that's it. That is my top 3 goals. Third, Connor Ogilvie versus Sunderland. Second, Mick Allen Jolly versus Wickham. And first, Regan Charles Cook versus Blackpool. From goals, we move on to top 3 wins. Goals win your games, wins win your points, points win your titles. That's the plan, simple. Right. Third place for me is a game that I've just mentioned in the goals category. Gillingham 2, Wickham 0 back in September. As we know now, Wickham are in the playoff final where they will face Oxford with a chance to get up into the Championship. Back then, in September, they arrived in Kent, I think 7 unbeaten at the start of the season. We'd not started great. I think we'd only picked up the solitary win, which was at home to Bolton's under-15s. And we needed something to kickstart our campaign, I think. Wickham, okay, had a couple of their big-name signings missing through injury, Fred Onyedimna and a couple of others. But they were still a side full of confidence, well organised by their gaffer, Gareth Ainsworth. There was always going to be a threat. And we were really, really good that afternoon. And I think that might have been the point where I thought, we've got something here. We just have to persist with it and be a little bit patient. It wasn't quite working at the start of the season. We were playing well in patches, but not getting over the line, chucking away leads. But that Wickham game, I just thought was a proper performance. And that's a word I use a lot, proper. We were solid, we were resolute defensively. The midfield was spot on in terms of work rate and getting about the Wickham players. And up front, we posed a threat. And as I've already mentioned, Mick Allen Jolly probably had his best performance in a Gillingham shirt that day. Scored the first from the spot. And then that goal sealed the points, a 2-0 win. Wycombe had been defeated for the first time that campaign, and it got us up and running a little bit. And I think, well, I can't talk for everyone else, but like I say, in terms of myself, it just gave me a little bit belief that we had something in terms of a decent side and a decent squad, albeit small, albeit a little bit inexperienced in areas. But if we persisted with it, it would get better, and it did, and we'll get on to that. But yeah, that was third. Second place is a game that was in my top 3 performances and top 3 goals. And again, that was Sunderland at home in the league in December. Thought we were absolutely brilliant. Again, it was a game we could have won by more than the solitary goal. Not say we hit the crossbar, we created chances, keeper made saves, but we had to rely on that late half volley from Conor Ogilvie. But there's something just a little bit sweeter, isn't there, when there's a last minute winner and you know that there's little or no time for your opposition to try and get back into the fixture. And that's what that day was. Certainly warmed you up because it was cold that afternoon. But you sort of forget that when you've got goals to celebrate and wins to celebrate. And I know then I was very close to, well, I had been turned a lot in terms of Steve Evans, but I was pretty close to potentially singing his name. Don't tell everyone. Top win though for me was away from the league, and that was in the FA Cup second round, after we'd seen off Sunderland in a replay, and that was Sunday all the way back in December, which ultimately set us up for a third round tie against the mighty West Ham. Mighty compared to us. And that was Doncaster at home, 3-0. We were really, really, really good. Started absolutely superbly. We were 2-0 up inside quarter of an hour. Great goal from Ollie Lee, lobbed the keeper. They got a hand to it, but it was a brilliant finish on the run outside of the right boot. I think Mark Burns scored that day as well. Little did we know that his season would end the week after, unfortunately, in that win against Sunderland, because he'd been really good up to that point, Burner. And fingers crossed that he can get in pre-season and earn himself a new deal, because I think he's still got plenty to offer. But yeah, back to that performance, really, really good. Got ourselves in front, managed the game really well, defended when we had to, because they're a good side. They play the right way. Darren Moore likes them to get the ball down and play. And I know they lost John Marcus beginning of last season, but they still have players that cause the threat. Kieran Sadler, who's now gone, looks like he's trying to angle for a move to the Championship. James Coppinger, the ageless James Coppinger, who makes Barry Fuller look like a whippersnapper, still doing his thing at this level at 39 years of age. I think they had the lad, is it Ben Shea from, I've got the name right, on loan from Arsenal, young midfielder, really good. And yeah, I think they'll have another solid season next season, whenever that is. But that day, we made them look very, very ordinary. And I think Brandon Hanlon scored the third goal second period to put the icing on the cake. And like I say, set up that third round tie with West Ham of the Premier League. So that's my top 3. Wycombe at home in third, Sunderland at home in second, and Doncaster at home in first place. Right, final sections before we summarise is this coming up on your screen now. Top 3 players. This was tough. There could have been any of 5, I think. But it says about our strengths and shortcomings, potentially, in the fact that all the votes that we've done in terms of a Gills in the Blood Player of the Season vote on Twitter, all the top players were defensively minded. There wasn't a lot of room for attacking players this season, which was nice. It was refreshing, because the last 2 seasons, I think it's been Tom Eaves and has been in there twice, and that's well deserved, because obviously he scored 40 goals in 2 seasons. I know Barry Fuller won it last season, but generally it's attacking players that get all the glory, and this season it was all defensive minded players, whether that was the keeper, centre backs, full backs, defensive midfielders. I think there has to be honourable mentions to the likes of Alfie Jones. Absolutely immaculate at the start of the season, dropped off a little bit, picked up a couple of niggles, but on the whole had a really good campaign with us, as did Tom O'Connor. Played at left back, played left side of a diamond. Stuart O'Keefe was one that I wasn't sure about start of the season, got better and better and better. Gives us that bite in the middle of the park that we need, and he certainly stepped up to the plate after Burner got injured. In terms of attacking players, Ollie Lee, I've already mentioned, I thought was really good. Half a dozen goals, double figures assists, I think, by my reckoning. So he's probably the most attack-minded player that I'd have to give a mention to. But in third place, for me, was a player that didn't start the season in the side. In fact, he was a player that was due to be released before Steve Evans took over. And it kind of busts the myth a little bit about Steve Evans not wanting to promote youth, because from what I've seen this season, if you're good enough, you get a chance. Young Henry Woods has been on the bench a few times. He's played in the checker trade games. Steve Evans has been honest, said he's not ready yet for regular games, but he likes him. Whether he gets a new contract, we still don't know, unfortunately, because of all this COVID-19 nonsense, delaying everything. But this man come on and played right back away at Bristol Rovers when injury meant Barry Fuller had to go off early doors, and he was really good. Didn't look back after that. Jack Tucker, absolutely brilliant. The fact that we nearly released him, staggering now, and I think he's probably worth 6 figures at the very least. Obviously budgets and prices and transfer markets are all a little bit different at the moment because of the financial state of the game, especially at our level. But Jack Tucker, like I say, came in, looked very inexperienced at times. There were games where he did struggle. Rotherham at home, I think, stands out. But alongside another player I'm going to mention in a second, was really, really good on the whole, and certainly played with an experience that belies his young years, and I think he'll go a long way in the game. Just pipping him to second place was the man that stood alongside him for pretty much all of the campaign after he got in the side, young Jack, and that was our captain, our leader, Max Amar, who for me comfortably had his best season in a Gillingham shirt. He led the side well. And I've had this chat with a few people. I don't think he's a screamer or a shouter in the old style sort of captain way, like Tony Adams type. But he talks to those around him and gets his message across one way or the other. Good with both feet in terms of being that sort of modern day centre-back that everyone likes to have. They have to be able to play, but he learned how to defend better, I think, first and foremost, playing alongside Gabriel Zakuani for 2 years. And for me, comfortably his best season. He missed 20 minutes, but if you look at the stats, he missed no minutes because there was no substitutes left when he dislocated his shoulder at home to Wimbledon at the end of February. Second place for me has to be our captain, Max Amar, and in any other season he'd probably win Player of the Year. But first is a player that I've mentioned plenty. He's in my top signings. He's in my top 3 for goals. He has to win in terms of top player, and that was, as I now like to call him, Fabio Cannavaro. Connor Ogilvie, Ginger Maldini, people have labelled him absolutely brilliant at centre-half, absolutely brilliant at left-back, positionally a lot better than he was at full-back now. Centre-back, good in the air. What he doesn't have in pace, he makes up for in terms of reading the game. He gives us balance because he's left-footed next to the right-footed Max Amar or Jack Tucker if he plays in the centre. His distribution's got better. He gets up and down. His fitness levels are brilliant. He's a threat if he gets balls into the box. He's a threat when he's in the opposition box. We know that. Rochdale at home, Bolton at home, Sunderland at home, Southend away. 4 goals all proved to be pretty important, didn't they? So for that reason, my top player for 2019-20 has to be Connor Ogilvie. Right, that is my 6 categories of top 3. I hope you don't agree with all of them. I'd be surprised if you agree with any of them. Do discuss. But before I go, I'm just going to sum up briefly the season as an overall. I think if we go all the way back to the announcement last year when Steve Evans was installed as manager, everybody knows my opinion on it. There'd been past histrionics with us, with Andy Hessenthaler. And we didn't like him, did we? Let's not sugarcoat it or try and dress it up to be anything other than what it was. And I thought at the time there were younger, better options out there. How wrong was I proved? First Q&A session in the summer, he spoke really well. He answered every question that was put to him, even the awkward ones about his past. We spoke to him at the end, myself and Stocky and Paul Rayner. They both come across really well. And all we ever said was that we wanted our football team to be better, to be harder to beat and to win more football matches. Proof's in the pudding. Start of the season was frustrating. Like I mentioned, we kept playing well for half hour here, 45 minutes there, an hour there, but we weren't winning football matches. 2-2 with Tranmere after being 2-0 up, 2-2 with Blackpool after being 2-0 up, 1-0 up, really good opening day for 45 minutes at Doncaster, got pinned in, second half only drew. But I think on the whole there was only 2 games where we were, what I'd sort of say was awful, and that was Oxford away that we went to when we got bashed 3-0, and Rotherham at home where we got bashed 3-0. So 2 games out of all of them that we played that we weren't competitive in, I think shows the fact that we're a lot harder to play against. Teams don't come to Priestfield anymore and play through us easily, which is something that Steve Evans alluded to when he first took the job. But yeah, as I've already mentioned, there were signs, there were positive signs. These patches where we were playing well indicated that we could play good football, we could cause problems to other teams, we could compete with the bigger sides in the division. First win of the season came at home to Bolton end of August. Second win was middle to end of September against Wickham. And that was when I started to think, yeah, we have something here if we can persist with it and be patient with it. And we did. And we lost to Wimbledon, who I don't like. I think their manager, the way their players conduct themselves is not very nice. But I know, I suppose if fans say that if we was doing it and winning football matches, then you're doing your job. And Wimbledon, I know, probably thought they was in a battle and had to do all they could to win 3 points. And they did it twice, which is frustrating because they're not a good football side. But that's enough about them. But Wimbledon, 23rd of November, we lost 1-0 at the Cherry Record Reds building site stadium. And after that, went on a long unbeaten run. I think the only team to beat us up until Wimbledon, again, at the end of February, was West Ham in the FA Cup. And there were some really good performances in that time. Like I say, we saw off Doncaster in the FA Cup 3-0. We saw off MK Dons 3-1 at home in the league. We beat Sunderland in the league. We went to Peterborough. We went to Ipswich and drew. We went to Fleetwood and got a 1-1 draw after being 1-0 down and under the cosh for large periods. We gave West Ham a real game, even though they ended up beating us 2-0. That was just Premier League class that eventually shone through. I remember that night because I said, Ryan Fredericks got injured. And I said, I fancy us now. Pablo Zabaletta's coming on, can't run. Get Hanlon on him, just get him driving at him. Scored the first goal, didn't he? First FA Cup goal, having spent a decade in England. And then they caught us on the break, didn't they, second period. But we were really good that night. And then, like I say, Sunderland away was the final memory of the season. And it all got wrapped up eventually, didn't it, after the lockdown started because of coronavirus. And it took ages to be decided. And I don't know why, because League Two got decided really quickly. But League One was eventually decided on points per game, which meant that we went from 11th to 10th. Finished above Autumn's League champions, didn't we, Ipswich Town, which is a massive achievement. I know it wasn't done entirely on the pitch in the end, but I'm super confident we'd have finished above them anyway. They were on a horrendous run of form. We were still within a chance of the playoffs, and I know how disappointed Steve Evans was that we couldn't get the final games done because he really thought we had a chance of jumping into that top 6. We still had to play Coventry at home, still had to play Fleetwood at home, still had winnable away games against Bolton, still had winnable home games against Tranmere. Bristol Rovers still had to play Wickham, who were on a little bit of a funny run. And I know they went in because they played less games on that points per game. And we'll never know, obviously. But for me, Steve Evans has definitely changed my opinion. I've sung his name. I've cheered him. I've cheered his football team. I think Paul Rayner's held himself really well. He's done wonders with the defensive side of our game. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, 7.5, 8. I think it's been really, really good. Not all the signings have worked, we know that, but how often do they? They're League One players for a reason. They're not going to be 7, 8, 9 out of 10 every week, because if they were, they wouldn't be playing for Gillingham. But I thought recruitment on the whole was decent. Some didn't work, some worked really well. Ollie Lee, Tom O'Connor, Alfie Jones, Stuart O'Keefe, John Akindi, we didn't quite see the best of, but I think with the benefit of a pre-season, to be absolutely flying next season. Fingers crossed. Jordan Roberts done a job when he came in January. Jordan Graham we didn't quite see enough of, but you never know, we might see him again. He's out of contract at Wolves and been released. So there was certainly more positives than negatives, weren't there? We were decent on the road without winning enough games probably. We were decent at home, won double the amount of games we had in previous 2 or 3 seasons. And I think the biggest thing for me to sum up was the fact that I looked forward to going to watch Gillingham Football Club again. I look forward to Saturday 3 p.m. I look forward to Tuesday 7:45 p.m. Whereas for too long it had been, oh, I'm going to go because I'm a season ticket holder and I feel like I have to. But it has changed, and let's hope we get a start date for 2021 really quickly, and then we can start offering contracts, and then we can start recruiting. And I'm really excited to see, whenever it happens, Steve Evans' recruitment drive for the new season, because it is going to be different. It's a whole new world now that we're operating in. But I'm confident that he'll have us, as he said, and to quote, younger, leaner, fitter, meaner, as we head into the new campaign, whenever that starts. Right, hope you've enjoyed the video looking back. As I say, go and check out Boston Stockey's review on the Gills and the Blood Injury Time podcast. That's a great listen. Fingers crossed, we'll see you soon in a football ground, because it's been far too long. Go and check out Fan Hub. Thumbnail is at the end of this video. Putting fans first. Keep staying safe. Keep washing your hands. Until next time, up the Gills.